Okay, good evening, everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome back. We're going to start this meeting. It is 7:07, and just was wondering if everyone could stand up for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this meeting is being televised and recorded for the transcription of the minutes. At this time, speakers wishing to address the board this evening should turn in the completed speaker card to the board secretary. Is there any report that was taken in closed session?
No, nothing to report.
No report. Can I have an approval of the agenda for January 16, 2024?
I motion to approve.
Second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Public comments. We said that speakers wishing to address the board on items on the agenda may complete speakers cards and submit them to the board secretary. Speakers addressing specific items on the agenda will have the opportunity to address the board at the time of the agenda item in the meeting. If you're addressing the board on a non-agenda item, please be aware that the provisions of the Brown Act prohibit the board from acting or discussing such matters at this meeting. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, per topic, and 20 minutes per agenda item. Okay, so do we have anyone here from the Millbrae Education Foundation? And anyone from the Millbrae Education Association? Classified School Employee Association? And we have members of the community. Thank you. So.
Sorry, MEF is here. I'm on the board too also. So. MEF's good.
Oh, MEF's good?
I'm not talking about it here. She came to say hi.
Well, glad you're here. Okay, so we have one speaker tonight, Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
Welcome.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
So I'm here because I have 2 boys that go to Meadows. One 4th grade, one 5th grade. And then I have a kindergartner who is going to Millbrae. What's that school?
Park?
No, Green Hills. See, too many schools. Anyways, the zoning is weird, and it needs to be looked into. Every morning I wake up to take my kids to school, I see tons of kids pass up going towards Meadows. The people across the street from me go to Meadows, the people over there go to Meadows, there's a street that goes farther up there, they go to Meadows, but my house goes to Green Hills. It's just, I'm 400 yards from Meadows, yet I have to go almost 2 miles to Green Hills. So the zoning's not right. It hasn't been right forever, but it's time that somebody looks into it. And that's all I say about that. Just somebody needs to look into it. I'm going to speak with her later on to see if we can get it on the agenda so that you guys can comment on it. But I know people are changing their addresses and whatever to go to the schools that they want to go to. It's not up to me to look for that. But if that's the case, then that's another thing that the school district needs to look into of people that live very far away and change their addresses so they can go to the right schools. I think I'm being wrong by having to go, having 2 kids go to Meadows and 1 kid go to Green. It's very hard on them. You're getting them. I like my kids to be on time, so they are getting there on time, but it's not easy. So that's the comment on that. And then I have another comment too. So
Yes.
on that button as well.
Mr. Martinez, yes.
That's me. So the school gyms, I volunteer a lot. I volunteer as much as I can with my kids. I'm a soccer coach with her. I'm a basketball coach with her. Are you coaching basketball? Yeah. So I do a lot of things with the school. I'm trying to do a lot more things with Green Hills, but we just started because it's kindergarten. And Green Hills is a wonderful school, and Meadows is a wonderful school. They're both wonderful schools. So I'm not complaining about any part of that. But the gyms need to be updated. I mean, and if they're not updated, they at least need to be looked at. I mean, meaning somebody walks in there for an hour, looks around, and fixes the things that need to be fixed. It would probably take less than an hour, 2 hours to fix those things, rather than have them break like the tube that comes down at the Meadows gym. It would have taken somebody a man lift and 15 minutes to tighten up the bolts, but since nobody paid attention to it, they had to rip it completely down, and now it's just gone. I spoke to Ralph about it, and he says he's trying to get it fixed, but my kid has been there since kindergarten, all the way to now, it hasn't been fixed. 6 years is a long time for something not to get fixed, when it really could have been taken care of by just somebody doing a little bit of maintenance to keep the gym intact. I would do it, but I'm not allowed to do it. And actually, I did do it last year. There was all the rims were off. There was missing bolts, and I just went in there with a couple bolts and fixed them all. It took me 10 minutes. But then I'm told I'm not allowed to do that. So there you go. So a little bit of time. What's that? They're just saying a bit of prevention would have saved us a lot of money. That's all. Have a good
Thank you,
evening.
Mr. Martinez. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Okay, trustee communication and comments. Trustee Beltrami.
Okay, so I did attend the Governor's Budget Committee's webinar last week. And the news is the deficit is 37.8 billion. So we are going to really be needing to tighten our belts and really look at what our budget's going to be allowing us in the coming years. The good news was that's half of what they thought the deficit was going to be. So they were very happy that it wasn't 130 something thousand instead of no billion. I'm looking forward to attending the Lions Movers and Shakers tomorrow night. It's going to be a wonderful event, and I thank the Lions for putting that on for us every year. Taylor's Interact Club is planning a sock drive, and so if we just want to get all the news out there and try to support the Interact Club at Taylor, they want to collect socks for people in need, and so they're getting that together. I don't know if it's going to be coming out in the next few weeks, but they're going to be sharing information on how we can all help other members of our community with providing them with some nice socks. So that's my update for tonight.
Thank you. Trustee Musa.
I think Claire brought up a couple things I was going to talk about. Thank you for doing that. I do want to say that Mills is having their pancake breakfast for their athletic department, and I think they have a special guest, Bonte Hill. I mean, he's one of the commentators for the Warriors. That he does the report. Karen, help me out. He does the announcement and does the highlights for the Warriors, and he does a radio talk show that he will be there as an honored guest at the Mills pancake breakfast. So, and again, it's a fundraiser for the athletic department, so that's should be a good fun event. But other than that, I can't believe it's January, half the year's school year is over, and we're getting ready for the second part of the school year, and I'm just, looking forward to the second part of the school year. So,
Thank you. Trustee Chin.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. I can't believe it's already mid-month of the new year. A lot of things were covered, but there is a bond pulling update meeting coming up tomorrow, so we'll kind of get a sense of where the survey results are coming in and the town's appetite for issuing a new bond. We'll hopefully have more information to report in the next meeting. We are also looking for members of the community to join our budget committee and parcel tax oversight committee. I know that a flyer, an announcement had gone out seeking volunteers. And there was an overwhelming interest. No, just kidding. We really need folks to sign up. It's a great opportunity to understand school funding and where our money goes, and to just get more information about our school district, how it runs overall. It's a great way to meet various administrators and various board members. And it really is a very low commitment. It's a few hours a year. So, we're really looking for members to join. I think we'd be willing to extend the deadline. Maybe Ralph can talk about that later, but I think the deadline had passed, right? But, we're still accepting
We can extend
applications, I imagine.
We can extend it to make sure we have proper representation.
Yeah. And I think that's it. I'm looking forward to seeing people at Movers and Shakers tomorrow.
Thank you. Trustee Barber.
Yeah, so we all mentioned movers and shakers, and I gotta say, it's my favorite event of the year. And the reason why is when you read the flyer, the Lions flyer that they put out, it's all about schools, connecting schools that serve our kids. And so the flyer speaks volumes. That's what it's all about. It's all about our schools and the kids, bringing everybody together in one room for a really good time, good collaboration, a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to it. I just want to wish everybody happy New Year.
Wonderful, thank you. So yes, looking forward to Movers and Shakers tomorrow evening. This has been a very generous event that the Lions Club has extended to so many people in our community over the last, I don't know.
It's our 7th year.
7 years, and it's something, like Frank says, it's a favorite, and so looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow night. I also wanted to give a shout out to Interact. Interact is doing some amazing things in our community, and they applied for a grant through the Millbrae Community Foundation, and it was approved last week. So they will get extra funds to.
That's the
continue-
Mills Interact.
Yeah, the Mills Interact, so they will have extra funds to do all those wonderful things that they've done. So shout out to Interact and to the Millbrae Community Foundation for how they support. So if you're looking at grants, I'm just throwing it out there for community projects. Please look on our website at the Millbrae Community Foundation, and there's an application for grants. So that's it, yeah, okay. Go right ahead.
We forgot one important thing, which is we want to welcome Lisa. It's your very first board meeting. It's like you've been here
Well, I
already.
was at the December board.
Yeah, exactly, but in this role, so that's why it almost escaped my mind.
Yeah.
Feels like you've already been here.
I know, it's so natural, so. So with all that being said, superintendent updates, yes.
All right, well,
You're on.
thank you. And first of all, I really want to thank the whole Millbrae community for such a warm welcome. I have really enjoyed meeting all community members, and I will say that every single time I speak to, whether it's staff or a parent, the sense of pride in Millbrae really comes through. So I just think it's amazing. And, you guys know I grew up in Burlingame, but I feel so much more pride from Millbrae than I do even when I'm in my hometown. So, and I really also appreciate the transition time that I had in December. So I've had opportunity to spend time with the trustees. I had the opportunity before break to visit all the school sites, but I had a really successful first week, and the main point was making sure I got out to all the school sites, because when I went out in December, it was a very quick visit. I didn't really have an opportunity to have the conversations that need to have. So from a community perspective, I sent out my welcome message and invited anyone who wants to meet with me to fill out a form, and Linda will contact you and we'll set up a meeting, and we have started those already. But I did just have a couple of slides to show my school visits. That was the goal, is to make sure that I probably spent about an hour and a half at each school site last week. So this is an order of my visit. So started Spring Valley, and just a couple pictures of upper grades reader theater. It's amazing how upper graders just kind of come alive if they're just getting up and reading and pretending they're acting out the role. And it's always fun to go into transitional kindergarten and kindergarten rooms. Because they ask lots of questions like, who are you? What are you doing? And then I went to Taylor and they had their Egyptology museum. So that was really fun. I used to be a 6th grade teacher and students always love ancient civilizations, especially Egypt, and the mummification process is always fascinating to everybody. So that was fun to see. And then there was a little PE dodgeball. I can't think of another activity that students get more excited about than dodgeball. So I put that in there. And then at Lomita Park, I actually had the opportunity to attend their staff meeting, and they were doing some professional development in 2 areas, PBIS, a Positive Behavior Intervention System, and they, the left picture kind of shows some agreements they had in terms of PBIS strategies, that lessons to be taught. And then they also kind of focus on Tier 1 reading strategies. So of course, students, there are some students who are maybe not quite at standard who get extra support from the reading specialist. But the idea of Tier 1 is making sure that we focus on really strong instruction from the classroom teacher. And then I got to see some transitional kindergarten as well as upper grade art. They were doing an activity where they were painting, using pastels for the outside, and then you flip it over and it kind of talks a little bit about who they are on the inside. So it was kind of a fun project. And then at Meadows, got to see some art. Their reading nook was really a popular place where classes can come and really have some different seating arrangements where they can sit on a beanbag and really just enjoy literature. You know, and it kind of goes in line with the MEF Readathon that is kicking off today as well. Safety Patrol was out there, and then the 4th grade classroom. And then Green Hills, I had the opportunity to speak at the principal's coffee. So Principal Dees said, come on by, and so there was actually a decent turnout for that. And then it was really neat to see in many of the primary classrooms, they had an author's presentation, and that was in partnership with the Millbrae Public Library. So that author was not local, but was able to kind of come on Zoom, and the different classrooms streamed that. And then one last thing that happened last week was our incoming transitional kindergarten and kindergarten night, and we had a really huge turnout. It was in the Taylor Auditorium. We had over 80 families who signed in, and so with 80 families, we probably had 125, 130 people there. And we had quite a number of people from our staff who were there as well. So Maureen Bradshaw was there from Green Hills, Terry Brenner and Julie DeMaio and Rich Rodriguez from Ed Services. We had our elementary principals there, and Rachel from Child Nutrition Services. So it's just been a great week, and I look forward to continued conversations with everyone and getting to know the district. And then I'm going to pass it to Ralph because there were some winter break projects, and so it's a short little video that we're going to show you to highlight some of the work and improvement for
So,
facilities.
When students are out, it's a good time to get some of the work done. So Rudy was busy and we had a couple of things going on. So we're going to start the video and let you see, and then I'll get some commentary after the video. So Rudy also put the video together as well. So you can see there's a lot that happened over the winter break. The windscreen is something that's a privacy screen, the windscreen, because we saw a lot of trash was floating through the fence after lunch. So it was a way to keep the trash from going on the other side of the fence, making it difficult for us to pick up. Also, if there's any transients in that area, because that area is by Caltrain, and sometimes you have transients or people kind of walking along the train tracks on the other side of the fence. The one area you saw that was only 6 feet high, it was only 6 feet high on purpose because there's a plan to put some logo and lettering through put-in cups that we're ordering for that part of the fence. So this last weekend, we should have had the trees cleared. We didn't have a picture of that. We didn't get it in time, but that area should be cleared of the trees because the trees are still impeding on the fence right by the field. So that's going to be cleared out before those cups get put in. And then you saw how awful those doors were. Much needed replacement for the doors at Green Hills. So much safer aspect there. And then the Facebook table, thanks to Julie DeMile's contact, there was somebody who was donating stand-up tables. When I asked how many, they said 300. I'm like, wait a second, we can't take 300. So we put out a survey to staff, and we asked staff, do you want these tables in your classroom or in your office space? And then we had Rudy go pick them up in Newark. And when he got there, they were not assembled. So we didn't get that information. So that's why you saw our team was assembling them, and they're getting them out slowly to each of the sites. The first one was Janine. Her office had one. I don't know if you saw that. But if you've been to Almeida Park, her office was cleared out. That big bulky desk was taken out, and that nice stand-up table was put in its place for a little more convenience. And then some future projects. You saw the playgrounds. We need to get some playgrounds in for the younger kids. And then, we've talked about the bond. Hopefully we do have a positive result from the polling of the bond. And if we do go out and get the community support for a bond, there'll be a lot more projects that we'll be able to get going throughout the district.
Thank you.
That was
Any questions? No?
So we didn't get the survey from the bond? I mean, the results.
We got the polling, which we'll be going over tomorrow with Team CivX and Superintendent, and I believe Karen will be there. Yes? And Claire? Yes? Maybe? Okay, and we're going to get the results tomorrow, and you'll get those results at a board meeting in the future.
I just have a quick question. Did we run ELOP camps over the holidays too?
Yes, we ran intercession for ELOP happened. I can't remember the exact dates. I don't know if anybody else has it out there. But there were dates that our after-school programming ELOP was available, and families took advantage of that at all of our sites. The students at Taylor actually were more mentor-type students, and they walked from Taylor to Green Hills to help with the leadership activities for the younger kids at Green Hills.
Okay, very good, thank you. Moving on to presentations, California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, the CAS update. Are we ready? Who's on?
Okay, who's starting the slides? Should I do? Oh, I can do it. Okay, so first of all, our state exam, which we take every year, is one of the metrics that we use in measuring things on our LCAP. And we'll talk more about that because we are in LCAP season, but it is a very important metric for many, many reasons. This happens to be a metric for LCAP Goal 1. I have some color coding here. So level 4 means you've exceeded the standard. So you're going to see royal blue when we talk about that. Green is the standards met, yellow nearly met, and red not met. And so you kind of want to think in terms of green and blue is above, and I kind of say the water line, and I apologize, I thought I silenced that. And then the yellow and the red would be below. So 3rd through 8th graders take the CAS. They take it in ELA, math, and then in 8th grade they take it in science as well. We give it around April, May. We could give it earlier, but the idea is that we want to kind of wait to give our students some time with instruction so that they'll do better on the test. And we had a 96.8 that tested in ELA and 97.5. The state in math, the state does look at that and we want to be, I believe it's above 90, 90, is it 95? Yeah, 90, I won't say 96, but 95. So we made it close, but we made it. This slide gives you just an overview of our results for this past school year. If you took all of the kiddos who take the exam and lumped them all in one bucket, in ELA, we scored 62.62% above, at or above proficiency. And then for math, it was a little bit lower, 61.05. So basically at about 60% is where we're, a little bit above 60% is where we're achieving. But that doesn't tell the story for all of our kiddos, because we know we have some kiddos who are really high performers and then we have others who are low. So separating that out by school, you'll see that we get a little bit different result. And I'm such a visual person, so I kind of just look at the red and the green and I can just visualize without even looking at the numbers and kind of look at it that way. We know that Lomita Park has some areas of need with our students. And so just the visual on that one, shows us that. Now, our STAR data tells just a slightly different story, but we won't go into that tonight, but that is some data that we could pull at a future time. Over the years, Lomita Park had been growing, and we had seen that trend, and we were so hopeful that we would see that trend again this year, but for some reason, they dropped this year. So, but that's very true of a lot of data. When you look at data, you never see just this straight growth, kind of like the stock market, it ebbs and flows as it kind of goes up. So we're hopeful that that will improve. So this is, I apologize, that was our ELA data that we just looked at. Now here's the same thing for math. And again, we see very similar looking charts. And then we broke it down by grade to see how our grades fare out. And as you can see, they're kind of the same. Like there's not a lot of fluctuation. We do have a little bit different story there in 7th grade. That one, I don't know, we had some good performers in 7th grade, our current 8th graders this year. So that's the LA. And then, there we go, there's math. And we kind of see pretty similar results. Interestingly though, with 7th grade, it didn't stand out like it did for ELA with the math. We saw a little bit different result maybe in 4th grade where there were a lot more kids achieving in 4th grade. All right, now this one is a comparison of our district compared to San Mateo County and our state. And in both of those cases, as you can see, we are above the state in the blue area, above the state in the green area, and therefore it would only make sense then that we are lower in the other two colors, in the yellow and the red. So we are performing better than the county and the state. And that is for ELA. Let's take a look at math. Okay, so for math, our blue is a lot, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but it is significant. It's more significantly large than the county and the state. And then our green is still above those. So when you add that together, we are definitely performing better in math than the county and the state. But again, there's still room for growth in both ELA and math. And then we broke this down by our student groups. And if you have a student group that is small, you don't have a number of students, it won't pull data for that group. So for us, African American didn't show up. We just didn't have enough students for that. So as you can see, we have going across our Asian, Filipino, Hispanic, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, white, 2 or more races. The SCD is socioeconomically disadvantaged. Yeah, big one. And then SWD would be students with disabilities. And our foster youth was too small of a population, it didn't pull any data for that. And I believe it's if you have less than 15 students, that's what determines. And then this is the same thing for math, so you'll see the same student groups along the bottom. You know, and in some cases, we've got a lot of growth. It's no surprise. I mean, every district, you know, even across our nation, you'll see a similar result where our students with disabilities are our lowest performers. And then our EL students often about the same or maybe a little bit higher. And that does prove to be the case here with our results as well. And you have to also, just to bear in mind too, like our Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, that group, you know, from this red here, 52.72%, but we're talking a smaller amount of students. That population is relatively small. And so it's easy to kind of get caught up in this, like, oh my goodness, look at all this red, but this is by student group. You know, so it's, you have to just kind of keep that in mind. So that's math. But then I wanted to look too at, well, how have we been performing over the years? And so this is, again, just if we lumped all of our kiddos in one bucket and looked at just their scores, proficient and above, you can see that we have just been pretty, you know, across the board, right there, hovering like about 63%. You know, we had a couple years like 17, 18, where we were a little higher, but we're just kind of generally across that board about 62, 63%. That was for ELA. And then for math, a little bit lower, but again, that same, you know, we're not seeing like growth, we're just seeing kind of across the board. And that data was gathered, you know, from 2014 on, and of course, there's nothing for 2019-20 because of the pandemic. And so we've kind of recapped some of the things that I just talked about on this slide. One thing that wasn't in the slides that I do want to point out, when you look, if you go back and look at any of this, where you're comparing the state and the county, remember, we're only through 8th grade. But the students in high school, they take it their junior year. So that county and state data includes those juniors in it. And I looked and there wasn't a way to just like pull that out separately to get different data points. So just kind of to keep in mind that that includes juniors as well in those statistics. So again, this just kind of recaps everything we just said. As a district, you know, we're right around that 62% for English, 60% for math. But on the plus side, we are higher than the county and the state. Our EL results are fairly similar from grade to grade. And I did point out that the 7th graders kind of had that anomaly where they were a little bit higher. You know, we tried to think like, well, what would cause that? What, you know, and we didn't know if COVID played a part of that. You know, by 7th grade, they weren't learning to read. They weren't like 2nd graders who were trying to learn, or 1st graders who were trying to learn to read. They already knew how to do that, so maybe that had something to do with why 7th and 8th graders did a little bit better. Again, we are better, performing better than the county and the state. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say there's always room for improvement. And so, areas for growth. We know we need to grow certain student groups that we listed here. And we have been talking about that with some of our individual schools. Last week, I think it was last Wednesday, when reading specialist, excuse me, presented to the Lomita staff. And I just walked out of there going, oh my gosh, that was terrific. And I feel like the message was really received well by the staff on how to strengthen tier 1 core reading instruction in the classroom. And I really think that the reading specialists, and we've got 5 this year, which is just amazing, are getting some traction because we're not short like we were last year with our reading specialists. And so they're kind of jumping in and taking more of a leadership role on presenting to staff and trying to move those statistics. So that's really great to see. And then increasing overall proficiency in ELI and math at Lomita. That's what I was just talking about. They're focusing on tier 1 reading strategies. So it was really a wonderful thing to see and to see staff embrace it. And that is all I have for you as far as slides. Can I answer any questions for you?
Karen?
So overall, it looks like we're pretty good compared to the county and to the state. And I'm pleased to see that there wasn't a massive drop off after COVID. That's actually huge because I know a lot of other districts face that. Additionally, it does look like we're actually trending a little bit upward, if you can tell if that's significant or not, a little bit in math. But it looks like maybe a little bit lower in English.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if these are statistically significant numbers, but I mean, if you were to look at the trend, maybe. I'm not gonna make any conclusions at this point. But these areas of growth that you've identified have probably been the same areas of growth we've seen over the last however many years. They're persistent. And I guess, I know we talk about this all the time, but what are 5 things that have been done to address these gaps over the past few years? And what's the effectiveness of it?
So that's going to be part of a presentation that we'll do later. We'll talk about what our plan is. But I want to go back to your first comment. And yes, we have seen some growth in math. And it is, it's noticeable because if you remember, Julie and I got a phone call in the very beginning of the school year from the state. And I think they said we were like 1 of 5 identified in the entire state having shown growth in math coming out of COVID. Now that's overall as a district, right? When we look at individual groups, it might show a little bit different. But they actually interviewed us, and then Debbie reported on it, and I believe, oh gosh, do you recall? Like, it was over the summer, I believe, when they called. So you are noticing growth. You're right, Karen. We did see enough that the state noticed and called us.
Yeah. So I guess what was actually done in that interview? Was it like good luck, or was it something we specifically did? Like, I would love for the public to know what 5 things we have been doing to address these gaps to either improve as a trend, or what 5 things have we done to address the same areas for growth in the last few years? Because these are not new areas of growth, right?
Yeah.
This is not like.
And we'll talk more about that as well, but like I gave a presentation on attendance, so attendance, because if they're not there, they're not going to learn, right?
So that's number 1.
So like attendance would be 1, yeah, but I'm not prepared to get into like a whole presentation tonight on that. I thought we were gonna do a future presentation.
Well, a future for future ideas, but what have we done over the last few years to address these things? Like, what has been in our LCAP and our priorities, and how are we measuring that effectiveness?
Yeah. So in our LCAP, strengthening tier 1 core instruction, and that's been an area, we only have so many PD days, right? And so it's hard to fit in everything that we need. But the idea is that we're supporting our teachers, like with presentations that our reading specialist gave at Lomita. We currently are going through a math adoption, and we're trying to adopt more appropriate materials that address the needs of our students that are underperforming. And in fact, it's one of the reasons we put a hold on our math adoption that we started last year, because we had actually chosen 2 things, forgive me, I had an allergy reaction right before I came in, and Julie can attest, she's been with me all day. I'm really, no, I'm okay. But it's just not kicking in yet. We had chosen, normally you pilot 2 sets of materials, and what we had chosen was relatively the same thing. It was, I'm trying to think of an analogy here to give you for 2 things that are very similar. And so I was advised by the county who were working with it, we needed to put a hold on it, and then a new math framework was being adopted by the state over the summer, so the advice I got was put it on hold. You don't want to take this lightly, like these are materials you're gonna have for a long time, so let's, get it right. So we're coming back to the table, we start up again next week with our math adoption. So just making sure that we have appropriate materials, and then what we'll need to do is follow through with training, because I've heard from different people, more so with our ELA curriculum than math, that, we adopt the materials, get some basic training for teachers, but they would like to go more deeper in understanding the materials. So professional development will need to be part of the future.
If I can just interject and say also the PLC work that has been happening, right? Because looking at that, you're looking at learning targets that are, shared with students, common assessments, really looking at formative assessments to determine and drive instruction.
Yeah, PLT work would really be probably the main thing I would cite for just about everything we're doing, because that's where we come together and we do identify those essential standards, instead of us just going off separately and going, oh, I'll teach this and I'll teach this, and I'm good at this and I like this. You're determining instead what's really essential, because there are definitely standards that we would deem not essential. They're nice to know, but the process involves, let's narrow it down to the things every single student must know, to move on to the next grade level. So that work continues. But yeah, I'm sure there's some other things I'm just not thinking of.
And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that wasn't the focus of this presentation. I just have been hearing the same gaps for the same presentation over the same number of years, whether I've been on this board or not. And I know it's not just a Millbrae problem. It is
Absolutely.
a statewide problem, but
It's a
it's
nationwide
time.
problem.
It's a nationwide problem. But I do want to make sure we are constantly keeping it top of mind and also thinking out of the box, because what everybody else is doing is not working, right? Like the same conversation is happening every year with every district across this nation, it seems like. And, it just can't always be the same conversation every year after year after year.
Well, I think this is a great time to have that type of mindset, because we were just at the LCAP meeting in the county, and we're in the process of writing a new LCAP. So Terry's heading up that process of a new LCAP. And part of that was look at the goals that had no growth over the last 3 years and change those, right? So look at those goals that you haven't had a lot of growth on and change those goals out. So
Or
new LCAP,
change the
Actions,
actions.
the actions,
Not
yeah.
necessarily the goals.
Not the goals, the actions.
But the action, yeah.
So we really look at the actions. So the LCAP this year is going to really dive into that question that you're asking. What's been happening? What interventions have been tried? And how can we change those to get better results? Because those results have brought about the growth that we're needing to see within our district.
We know there's a direct correlation between attendance and achievement. And in my last presentation on attendance, we talked about how Lomita has been struggling with chronic absenteeism. We're putting things in place, got the county involved. And so, yeah, we know that it's multifaceted, right? So definitely things we'll be talking about and addressing.
Just to piggyback. Oh,
Go ahead, Christina.
Okay, I can speak to special education, and you will all be pretty familiar with a lot of these things. But we've been working towards more inclusive practices. In terms of math support, we've adopted, we're working on adopting touch. So we've gotten a lot of awesome manipulatives for the classrooms. We're piloting it with the teachers. It's an expansive pilot because we recognize that math is an area of growth in special education. we've officially adopted Sunday in all of our classes, so that is something that we're working on. We have also been utilizing Goalbook, so all of our goals and IEPs are standards aligned. So our students are working on their grade level standards in their IEPs. As Ralph mentioned, we are embedding ourselves more in the LCAP, and we are also looking at a data collection process within our own program. So right now I'm auditing IEPs because yes, students with special education tend to not score as high on these assessments, but I don't feel like that's the full picture of the children in front of us. What I'd really like to look at is how are they making their IEP goals? And so that's something too that when I do my presentation later on this year, I'm happy to share with you. It's a simple audit, so it's like pulling IEPs and seeing if the students did or did not meet goals. I would hope to expand it more next year, but that would depend on second. That's how it goes sometimes. But we can actually get a snapshot of where children really are, because I don't think that that's a true representation of the special education students. They have such amazing strengths, so I would love to share that with you guys.
Thank you. In addition to that, Christina, I know Touch Math, and I think it's wonderful, not just for special education students, that I would hope that that could be something that would be brought into regular ed classes. I'm also a huge proponent of reflex math, and I've mentioned that a couple meetings ago. I love to see that in our district for all students, because it's an independent thing, mainly a lot like accelerated reader. And these are things that students can do at home as well as at school, and reflex math is amazing. So I would hope that that would be something. And some of these strategies are not just special education strategies at all. It's just good teaching. It's just good teaching is what it is.
And another piece too, and I know we're going to tech update as well, but we've also, and you've seen as well, we had iPads. We got a grant last year that we utilized for technology that's more appropriate for students who require that a different type of technology. So we have been looking at that as well.
Yeah. And just a comment, sorry, I just wanted to, while I'm thinking about it, while I'm happy to see that we are exceeding with county and with state, I can't help but look at the bottom two tiers where we're not meeting any kind of growth. And I can't help but look at one school that is 73% below, 73% below. And that same school has the largest number of EL and anyway. And so I just really want to know what kinds of things are we going to look for when we rewrite or adjust the LCAP. Because we haven't done it previously on the LCAP, it hasn't been done. So going forward, we're already halfway into the school year now, and we've lost from September to now. And now we're looking at tier 1 interventions, and I get that. But what are we going to do to address these deficits? I mean, it's blaring at 73% at one school. I mean, that's just not acceptable. And I could, we can just say how wonderful we are because we're exceeding in other areas, and other sites or, other percentages. But what are we doing for those students?
I will say that even though the presentation showed we're doing better than the county and the state, it breaks my heart when I look at Lomitas. So please do not feel like we're just saying, oh, because we're better than the county and the state, that we're not paying attention to that data. That data is so important to us. And I know I can speak for the Ed Services Department, our support at Lomita is much greater than we give to our other school sites, because my belief is that our resources should go where the need is, and that's where it's needed. So for instance, Julie and I spent all day Friday there, and we're spending all day this Friday And we just support as much as we can and help, and I do believe we'll get there, but.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. And it's not just chronic absenteeism. It's not the pandemic, and it's not, I don't feel as though as a district, we have our priorities straight.
I don't think it's, the thing is, if I was a parent at Bermuda Park and I look at these numbers, I mean, we can see here and brag about our numbers are going higher. But if I was a parent at Bermuda Park, I would say, what about my school? What are you doing in my school? But saying here, we're putting our resources at one school, we're doing this, we're putting more reading specialists. The reading specialists had a great meeting with the staff. As a parent, that's not good enough for me. I need our next presentation, we should say, you know what, this is our weaknesses at Bermuda Park. This is A, B, and C, and D. These are the things that we're gonna do. And it's not just barking orders, it's how we're gonna be hands-on at that school, working with our teachers and our parents, because if we're not working with our teachers and our parents, you can keep doing the same cycle every year that we have been doing for years, and nothing's changed. And it's time for us to take steps to make a difference. So I think I would love to see at the next presentation is a line item for parents when they're watching on TV or looking at the presentation to say, okay, now it's a visual. We're gonna tackle this in reading. We're gonna do this in math. But if you're saying we're gonna put all of our resources, or we got reading specialists, as a parent, when I was a parent, that doesn't mean anything to me. So I'm just, for us as a district, we have to be a little bit mindful in talking in terms that parents can understand and take it home and, make sense out of it. Like for us as a district office, we kind of talk about numbers and stats and all this stuff. It's great. We like to do deep dives and numbers and stuff, but as a parent, they don't have time for that. So it's just for us to think about.
So one thing that, we did over the summer is we improved the facility, right? So I think that when a student shows up on the facility, I think that says a lot. And if it's run down, if it's flooded, if it doesn't look good, I think that has a specific attitude. So we focused heavily on the facilities over the summer. And I think you saw an improvement there. So you saw the video here, you saw the painted blacktop, you saw the fence line that was fixed, you saw the new windscreen. They're the first site to get the new TK playground. So we're making, every effort we can for not just academic resources, because we know academic performance is not just about curriculum and people in the classroom, but it's about the community feel. It's how they feel on the campus when they first come in, how much pride they take in the campus. So we're tackling it from all angles with Bermuda Park and the performance of that site, and making sure that they feel the same in every aspect of our work, not just specific aspects.
You're right, you made a good point. When a kid is excited about something new at school, whether it's on the playground, whether it's PE, whether it's in the cafeteria, a new food item, they go home. When the kids are excited about something, they go home to tell their parents. Therefore, the parents get excited. And I know from the parent, when my kid came home excited about those pizza things that I used to love. I mean, it's just little things that make a difference in a kid's life that gives it a positive impact on the parent to see there's changes. Like when a kid's happy, then the parent's happy. So again, that really translates a lot into how the kids perform. So
I do think that urgency is important, and we should use that as a motivator, because looking at these scores, that's really, I think when you feel that urgency, that's what kind of moves you forward, and then it's kind of keeping consistent.
And we've also engaged Janine, the principal, with the information about Title I dollars and the extra dollars that go, because they're a Title I school, and how to best utilize those. And Terry and I have been talking to her about what has been effective with those Title I dollars and what she can use them to have more effect based on what she sees and what the site sees as what's needed on the site.
And also when you see a school as small as Bonita Park with in excess of 5 new staff members, and we're talking about Title I or Tier 1 intervention, and how are these people coming in from, they're brand new teachers there, and how are they supported, and how are they shown different, modeling? Well, I don't know, Julie, how?
I've recently been covering classes so that some of the new teachers could go observe their more experienced grade level peers, and then they work with Dr. Janine on reflecting on that. And we've got more set up in the future so that it's kind of the teacher can go watch that happening and then come back and try it and reflect on it. So having me available to cover a class so that that can happen. And I've been working and supporting, saying, let's look at seating arrangements, working with the behaviorists. I have a standing meeting with Brittany. And together we look at some of the requests we've had for behavior. How can we then go in and support that, whether it's environment change or working with the teachers on approaches. And I'm going to be presenting in February's staff meeting on calming corners and soft starts, so that first 15 minutes is welcoming, as Maggie says, when they're excited to get there and they're not hitting the academics right away, but it gives the teachers time to check in, check out with kids. So we're working on lots of different strategies that Janine and I have been talking about. And I'm there almost every morning. I didn't make it there this morning, but I'm at the gate every morning.
But are you there all day?
I can't be there all day, but I am there for a good chunk of the day, and by appointment, I'm spending 60% of my time or more at that school, and only have been able to consult with the other schools.
And they're the largest MTSS site?
They are, and that's not Chinese.
We're part of their MTSS team, so we attend their team meetings. I'm a member of their PBIS team, and we've made great progress. And on the 25th of this month, they're having a huge assembly to kind of, normally we kick off in the beginning of the year, but that's okay because we started from ground zero and now we're ready to present. And I'm so proud of the work that they've been doing, and I really believe that PBIS is going to make a difference.
And I know that they're really using their paraprofessionals for math support as well as reading support. And we just, as Terry said on Friday, had back-to-back SSTs, which is about looking at individual students, but also what is happening for interventions and how much time is spent looking at gaps in foundational knowledge. And I was really impressed with how many things are in place this year that I hadn't seen previously.
And are the reading specialists involved in the SSTs?
Absolutely.
Is they're the ones that have the hands-on with those students?
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah, the team was comprised of, Terry was in support should we need someone to cover admin, but Dr. Janine and I were in there. Rich Rodriguez was in there for anyone who's a language learner. And that's one thing we've added as a full-time ELD coordinator and spend a lot of time looking at those practices.
ELD coordinator.
ELD. Rich.
I know.
He's
but
full-time, he's not a full-time.
He's full-time in the Nita Park?
No, but he's full-time in the district and he spends the majority of his time. And having Hassan there full-time as an ELD tutor. But in the meetings, we also pulled in Leslie if it was someone who was seeing a counselor. And there was a reading specialist in every meeting, and there was someone on their caseload.
So how much time does Rich spend at Lomita Park?
That I don't know. I don't have his calendar.
Well, I guess I have a couple of questions, but I know you're allowing them some time to go observe, a teacher time to go observe, but I thought we also were having PLCs that they should be doing, where they should be actively, I don't know how effective those have been working, but hopefully that should alleviate the need to have to substitute in so they can observe other teachers, but, because that's supposed to be an ongoing every.
But they're two different practices.
Right.
One is watching how you interact with the teachers and
Oh, I see.
implementing a particular strategy, like how to increase oral language time in a classroom and have choral response or whiteboard response so that you're increasing each individual student response time. That is something to observe and see.
Okay, got it.
As opposed to working with data on paper and making plans for sessions.
Okay, that makes sense. And I guess the other thing is at one point we had visited a sort of overall district resource sheet where it kind of looked at the district resources spread across all 5 schools. And there were definitely some gaps at Lomita Park, whether it was in psychologists or in the counselors, reading specialists, paras, et cetera. And, we said we were going to try and make sure that the resources were allocated based upon needs. And I don't know where we ended up on that, but there was definitely a mismatch.
I can speak for the psychologists and the counselors. So the counselors have been allocated 5 days a week. You're listening, Catherine. Thank you, Catherine, for allowing us to shift that a little bit. And so we were able to shift a day from Meadows to cover Lomita 5 days a week. And so that's been in effect for the past month or two. And that was based off the data that we had gotten off the referral sheets from the counselors. We just got a psychologist back off maternity leave. So that allowed us to now, and I just put everything together over the weekend. So we now have a counselor or psychologist at all schools 5 days a week. So
Right, I just want to make sure we're constantly balancing that and not just, oh, when we ask, like, it's a constant balance of needs versus just making sure we spread evenly, where everybody has the same amount evenly, because we all know that the need is not even, right? So, you know, for whatever reason, the need was greater at Bonita Park and they had the fewest resources. And we knew that, and nothing was changed until we asked. So it's something that I think we need to be proactive and constantly looking at, because somebody might go out on maternity or somebody may go out for whatever reason, or we have a gap in resources, which constantly happens. You know, but we have to always be reevaluating our resources and making sure that it's maybe 60-40, where, you know, we're allocating a person's time, because the need is 60% at one place versus at a different site. So, you know, these are the types of things that I just want to point out. I'm glad to see that that did get rectified. I don't know, beyond the counselor and the psychologist, whether or not all the other things have been balanced out, but that's, I think, some of the prioritization that you talked about, Terry, and making sure the need is placed where, or the resources are placed where the need is. Like our conversation on the old data, I think almost all of the conversation should have been focused on Bonita Park. I mean, in the future, right? Because that's where we should be allocating our time and our thoughts and our priorities.
And then also with behaviorists, I know we have, you know, and we'll wait for your presentation, Christine, because I know that'll be wonderful. But in terms of behaviorists, I know a lot of the issues that are going on, and not just at one school, but at all the schools when we have behavioral issues that, and, you know, prevent a teacher from really being effective in a classroom because she or he is, you know, trying to monitor a kid that is running around the classroom or whatever, you know, are hired or whatever, are they out in the trenches? That's important to me, that they should be in those classrooms.
Yes, and so we created this year the BEST program, and what we did last year, and I can share more in depth when I do my presentation. What we did last year was we created a BCEA position, and what that did was that allowed for us to continue supporting students' IEPs, because students do have minutes for behaviors on the IEP. It also allowed us to elevate Brittany to be able to allow her to go into the classrooms, and we have been able to do that. We do it by referral, and Julie sort of touched on that. So if a student is having a behavior, the principal will send in a request. We look at the request to see if it's a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 level of support. If it's a tier 1 level of support, we allow our ed services teams to sort of lean into that. If it is a tier 2 or tier 3 level of support, that's when we do have myself and Brittany. Sometimes we'll go and we'll walk the sites with the principals. I'm allowing Brittany to sort of lead that, but I am going with her as well as we launch this new program. And that allows us to be able to speak with the principals and the teachers and giving them some good ideas and resources from the ABA, so Applied Behavior Analysis lens. And that it really, and for the principal themselves, they're able to implement it and help implement it on a daily basis, because Brittany's not going to be able to be at that site all the time, but she can sit there and she can consult and she can discuss all of the problems that may be within a class. If, you know, the teacher's having a difficult time on the time we hadn't maybe observed, then we can just problem solve with them. And then the principal, as the instructional leaders, can help support that on a day-to-day basis. It's not a one and done, so we do continue to monitor and support as the site requests.
Any other?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything I was asking. It's been discussed.
Trustee Barbara?
Well, you know, after listening to everything, I could tell that we really need a full court press with one school. We really do. And I think our staff here really needs board support. We need to, you know, we're talking, that's great. We know what we need to do, but we need to support the staff. We need to support everybody living in Parker, but we need to support the staff. That's what I'd like to see done. And I think we can get it done.
You said it, we can't just keep talking, we actually have to walk.
Walk the walk.
Okay, so moving along, we have our second presentation, which is technology. Jeff?
Hello.
No, thank you, Mr. Martinez.
Thanks for having me. I have so much to share, and it's all technical, and I apologize because I know that that's not easy to listen to, so I'm going to try to keep my comments brief. I'm going to try to hit the highlights. Please feel free to stop me if you have questions, or we can talk about questions at the end. This next slide is probably one of the most exciting ones because it's probably the very first time I've ever used an exclamation point in a professional presentation, but we are fully staffed in technology, and that is so exciting. Rashid was our last member of our team. That position was vacant for over a year. He stepped in and he really dove in. He has brought a tremendous amount of professionalism and knowledge with him. Of course, he has a master's in networking, but he also has experience working in like power plants. So like he understands some of the most critical infrastructure, and he's bringing that knowledge and wealth of knowledge with him to our district. And he understands the priority, and he like loves the fact that he gets to make a difference in students' lives every day. So I have to say thank you to him for joining our team. Thank you to him for always bringing a positive attitude. He also took the lead over winter break. We had, I didn't include it in the weekly, but we had an outage at Green Hills. The site was down for a week and a half. Luckily, it was winter break, so it was the best time possible. But there was Comcast couldn't figure it out. It didn't look like it was anything within our network, and it literally took most of the break. Rashid was there every day, working with our network consultant that we brought in because he helped rebuild this network with us before Rashid was here, and working with Comcast to try to resolve the issue. And we did get it resolved on the Friday at the end of break. So that was very exciting. But he has been instrumental in taking notes, documenting important key things in the district. So even after this scenario at Green Hills, the first thing he turned and said to me while we were still resolving it was like, we need to make sure that we also document this, and we need this, and this would help me troubleshoot this faster if this ever happened again. So I always appreciate his growth mindset looking forward. And then of course, Lyndon would hate if he knew that I was talking about him in a board meeting because he never wants that attention. But Lyndon has been here. He's been here for more than 15 years. Everyone knows him. He's at every single site once a week. And he truly is the embodiment of customer service. I've never seen anyone who can approach every single different problem and every single different person with such grace and such kindness. And so anyway, I'm spending too long on this slide, but I'm just so excited about this happening again. So, okay, jumping into network. So, when you brought me on in my interview, you had some questions about what I was going to do in the first week. I think that was Karen's actually. Was it your? I think it was. I think you were like, what are you going to do in the first week? And I was like, oh gosh, Karen. Sorry, just kidding. But we had a lot of work ahead of us, and there's a lot that's happened in technology. So again, I'm going to go through really quick, but some of the most important things on this slide to me is the servers and all the work we've done on the servers. We'll get into that in a different slide as well. Of course, the bandwidth was a huge deal, going from 2 to 5. We more than doubled the bandwidth available to the district. So that's more resources available digitally to teach and learn and work in the business office. Everything is benefited by that. And then also on here, the phones. I mean, this was just silly stuff to tell you, but there were dropped calls, and calls were not being made, and it was not a reliable system. So the fact that we've done so much work for the phone system to really make that reliable as it should be, because it is a true lifeline, especially for sites that don't have great cell service. And then the informed dispatching for 911. So when you call 911 from any, and again, this was actually Rashid that drove this final part home at the start of this year because there were still some names that were mismatched. So that was one of his very first projects, was to kind of learn everyone's name and fix everyone's phone. And so he went through and made sure that every single phone, when you dial 911, the dispatcher on the other end, even if you don't say a word, on their screen, it says the school site, it says the address, and it says the specific location, whether it's a classroom or an office or wherever it might be. So on that dispatcher's line, if you just go to the phone, dial 911, and never say a word because you can't talk or whatever it might be, or somebody hangs it up, we know where that call's coming
You
from.
tell me to test it.
We can test it if you want. And then in addition, anytime a 911 call is made, the superintendent and all of cabinet get an alert as well, so that you have district office resources being allocated to that 911 call if needed, the second it happens. So, and again, all of those emails include the specific person, the specific location, all those things. So that's very, very exciting. Servers we talked about briefly, so I know there's a whole bunch of stuff on this slide. The biggest things was that we've now upgraded every server at every school site and the district office to what is current. It's updating consistently. It's got redundancy that it never had before, so it's actually doing what it's supposed to be doing, and it's reliable. It's invisible, right? So in my mind, technology really should be thinking about it. It should just be doing its thing. If you're noticing it, it probably means something wrong. And then computer updates. And then Synergy on there too. I threw that in there. We did add redundancy for Synergy. So there were times when like a server needed to reboot and then no one could log into Synergy, and that's just silly. So we fixed that. We added redundancy. So now you have the ability to point to multiple servers to get logged into Synergy. You're not looking for one individual thing. And then computers was probably I'm super proud of this. We've already finished Green Hills this year, and Spring Valley is actually coming up in the next month or so. And then next year we'll look at adding another site. We originally planned on doing one site at a time. We created a district standard. So I'm sure you guys remember, but even when the refresh was happening, the computers that were being purchased were subpar. And so you were a teacher, and this was actually one of our biggest conversations with teachers that had been here for a while. When we talked about doing this, they're like, I don't want to do that. Like, the one I've got, at least I can make it work. And I'm like, but the new one is great. And they're like, no, every new thing we get worse. And I'm like, I promise it's not. And so Green Hills was the first one, and they trusted that we would help them, and I think they've been really, really happy since. But the district standard that we've created is not the bottom of the barrel, cheapest that you can buy, because it's a waste of money. They break faster. And the reality is, when you have 30 people looking at you and they're little people, you can't wait a minute for the thing to load. It needs to be there. It's getting in the way of the instruction. So thank you, Ralph, for helping us budget that and allow us to provide a mid to high tier device that actually works in the classroom. And then allowing us to kind of put that in the budget development year after year. And then, of course, we did update servers, so computer updates are happening the way they're supposed to. We're in compliance with cybersecurity. Incident IQ. So this was this summer. Thank you, board, for approving this. This was a new platform this year. This is the very first time in the district that all users have been able to submit tech tickets. Previously, it had to be an admin assistant or a principal submitting on behalf of a teacher. I truthfully believe that people weren't asking for help because they didn't know how, or they didn't want to bother. The admin assistant's so busy, it's registration, I just will deal with my problem. Now that people can do it themselves, we've seen a huge increase. Just in looking at last year to this year, there's been a 40% increase in tickets. And I really think that's people reaching out, getting the help they want and the help they need so that they can be successful. So that's been really, really exciting. And the teachers were super excited about that. And then, of course, asset tracking, we've been able to actually now track, and I can tell you what's where. And that's on a future slide. So here it is. Before, Rob asked me when I first started working, he's like, so where's stuff? And I'm like, Rob, I have no idea. Because there's no tracking, I really don't know what's where, and I can't break it down for you.
Okay, how many devices were there?
I couldn't even tell you how many devices there were. Like, some simple things where I should be able to answer these questions, and I couldn't.
What were these computers on this desk for?
Yeah, what's in that box? I don't know, I've never opened that box. Oh, look, a Chromebook is in that box. Why was it in there? So very exciting stuff. We now know where everything is. Everything gets inventoried at least every year over the summer. And that allows us to go through, check parts, update everything so everything's current. We know we're not gonna run into an issue when it comes time to run CAS because our current devices are in those carts. We're not scrambling last minute. I did update this slide, so if you're looking at yours and it looks different up here, it's because I had a couple questions over the weekend. Thank you. I didn't write it super clearly, so I totaled your students and your devices, and then the student to device ratio is below. So you'll see that at every school, there's devices at every single school, but some schools actually have more devices than students. We just spent a little bit of time talking about the resources that we need to implement and add to one of our schools, elementary schools, and you can see that we've been doing that with technology, trying to do with technology, providing more devices than there are students so that everyone has access to a device. We're actually, I was working today, I'm trying to finalize the quote for one more cart for kindergarten for that school site. And then Taylor is the anomaly because they have so many more devices than students, but we have to do that because of the classes that switch. So having carts in classrooms mean that if a class has 20 kids, but the next period has 35, we have to make sure the cart has a minimum of 35 to accommodate the next period's class. So that throws a big wrench in there. And to be honest, this might be something that we look at future plan to maybe decide, and Ralph and I have had this conversation since I started, but maybe it's time to start looking at a plan down the line of implementing like true responsibility and ownership for our Taylor students, where it's more of a one-to-one platform. There isn't necessarily carts in classrooms. And then even with that plan and implementing, a 10 to 15% overage for breakage and damage and everything else you know is going to happen, you'd still have extra devices that could then get reallocated towards elementary schools. So it might be time to start looking at that option. It's a big deal. It's a lot of work. It would obviously involve a lot of coordination with the site, and Aaron's listening to this meeting being like, he never told me about that. So I'm not doing it yet, Aaron, I promise. But it is something that looking at the data, it's something that I think we should start considering. And it's not like a roll it out in a couple months. I don't even think we'll be ready for the next school year. This is like a 1.5-year process. It would be August 2025 that I would probably say we could start this process. But anyway, so that's out there. Password updates. This is, again, I have to thank the staff for the trust in us, but we ran a report. We spent this year's focus, my goal was to improve my own knowledge and our focus on cybersecurity. As you know, education is a big target. It's only getting bigger, and we need to do what we can. So we focused on getting the technology hardware up to date, so that's less vulnerable, and that's hard. Now the next step is working on the other low-hanging fruit. So one of the big statistics that just came out was the amount of attacks that have been taking place due to compromised credentials. That's now half of the root cause of attacks in any organization. Is 50% of that is compromised credentials. So we ran a report on the district just as a baseline. We found out that 44.7% of our users had a breached password that they were currently using that was for sale currently on the dark web. So that really gave us a pause and asked us to really reevaluate how we were doing passwords for staff. And again, this is staff only. We're not requiring the same rules for students because their accounts are so limited, it's not the same thing. Still important, and we have put a lot of work into securing student passwords with classroom-specific passwords. Our Taylor students actually set their own passwords now as of last year, so that's been a big deal for them. But we're not necessarily invoking these same rules on them that we do with staff. So 76 staff members had the same password, and some passwords were literally only 2 characters long, which, as you can guess, is a problem. So we put new policies in place. We worked closely with interim superintendent Skelly to help kind of develop how we're going to present this. And then we presented it to staff, and everyone was really supportive. Thank you, staff, for being willing to do this. Nobody likes changing your password. Nobody likes the work you have to do. But it is important. And it protects our student data, protects our staff data, and it protects our whole network. So new policies were put in place. We don't have a single breach password. We're running this report monthly now. And then everyone has a password minimum of 12. And then this is kind of where that puts us. So this is the crazy infographic that made me go back and change some of my own personal passwords. But basically, with AI, you can crack a password that's less than 12 characters in a matter of, well, you can get to some years up there, 11, 10, 11, you can get through a few years. But this was as of mid-2023. So AI is continuing to improve. These numbers will continue to get faster and easier for AI to crack your password. But we're trying to live somewhere in that red box. And then even if that number shifts lower, we'll still have a little bit of a buffer. So that's where we are right now. But you can see like the 2 characters wasn't even on there, right? It's instant. Backups. So the district has had sketchy backups, if I'm being honest. Sketchy was that the correct professional word? It was not reliable. It was non-existent. We thought we had it, and then it crashed, and we didn't have it. So we're very confident in this now. Again, Rashid is testing this weekly, but it's fully encrypted. It's immutable, so it's uneditable after the fact, which means it can't be, in theory, it can't be manipulated by somebody if they did get in the network. And it's going offline up to the cloud as well, so we have a lot of options. And then in terms of business continuity, we are still looking at options for virtual environments. So even business continuity, even in terms of like a long-term power outage, how would we continue to operate our systems, and if we can't power them here at the site? So we're looking at options to house servers at the county office. We're looking at options to house servers virtually in an environment that we can actually spin quickly and reduce downtime. Synergy, we put a lot of work into Synergy. Synergy gets a bad rap in Millbrae because it's has been difficult for years and years. So we put a lot of work into this. Summer school was a big deal for us. We put everything into summer school for all the schools for the past 2 years. Emergency contacts available. They're doing attendance tracking. They can really run data on what students are there, when they're showing up. Taylor's summer school last year, they did all the section assignments. Those kids had a schedule that they followed just like they normally do. We worked on the grading windows. This was a big complaint, especially for Taylor. Students couldn't access or see their grades within the last 15 days of the end of a reporting period. So if you think about a reporting period, it's only 6 weeks, and they lost 2 of those because the grades were locked due to the grades being released soon. It didn't really make sense. So we were able to clear that block. Students can follow their grades all the way up to the last minute. They can reach out to their teachers. They can make changes that actually impact their final grade versus being locked out and saying, I don't know what I got. That's too close. We talked about the redundancy in the servers. We cleaned out a whole bunch of old data. Hundreds of old users are gone. We fixed a lot of permissions that were issues, and then we're running continuous updates to fix how that extracts as well. Parent Square, we're 99%. We have 20 families left. We're so close. Admin assistants have been helping with this process to make sure it was enrolled, so that's really exciting. We're still working to implement the language sync that we talked about in this meeting, trying to get our primary language, home language the parent has already told us is home language in Synergy, and sync it to Parent Square so that their language in Parent Square is the language they want their home language to be, versus having to go back and change it later. And then we're also working to get teachers to be able to send messaging through Parent Square as well. So that way they don't have to try to copy email list or create them. Upcoming Synergy EduClimber integration it's close. We're doing a data review with them in the next 2 weeks or so. They think it should be ready for us. So EduClimber is processing all that data. EduClimber is also where one of the things we're excited about. That's also where CAST data would be for staff to be able to review. So staff can't see the CAST data the same way a parent or student can because there's no direct sync in Synergy the way there is for in parent view or student view. But EduClimber will be able to house that data. So we're excited about being able to offer that to staff. Anonymous reporting platform is coming up soon. That's in partnership with the County Office of Ed. Wi-Fi, we're looking at using our Category 2 grant money, federal money for Wi-Fi replacement, continuing to update and keep that up to date, and current and power supplies. So that there's even if it's like a 5-second outage right now, in some issues we are coming across is you can have a quick outage, but then you have 5-10 minutes while things reboot. If you have a power supply attached that gives you like an hour, then most of the time you can weather those things without any interruption at all. So we're excited about using our money for that as well. So that's the end of my slideshow. Tried to go quick. Superintendent Hickey wasn't fast enough. I promise I tried to talk fast. Can I help answer any questions?
Questions?
Yeah. Jeff, I looked at your presentation a couple of times this past weekend, and I started to reflect back about 20 years being in the district and how far behind we were for so long. And I looked at all your accomplishments, everything that you've done. And I gotta say, I'll keep it really brief. You've brought us into the 21st century. Remarkable. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, that first slide speaks volumes. Like, that team is very strong. And I can't say that it's alone. Ralph partnered with us to make sure we had budget access to be able to do projects. You obviously, as a board, authorized projects that made a big difference for staff in terms of incident IQ, and it's a team effort. But thank you. I'm excited about the progress we made. I'm excited about how much more we have to do. We're gonna keep pushing, and I'm stoked about it. So thank you.
Any other questions?
I just had a quick question. For the Synergy reports, you said that it's doing attendance. Is there any way that we're getting the attendance letters for people who are chronically absent out to the sites? Because I know that they've always had a headache with trying to make sure they're notifying
Yes.
families.
Thank you so much for asking that. It has been a constant headache because Synergy, I looked back in the history of Synergy to try to figure out how the thing was built, but I couldn't really do it. So Synergy's been great. They helped us build basically the template of how to do it and how to roll it out. Terry and I are working on the template that we load in, and then and we've been coordinating with admin assistants to make sure that it's actually saying what it should be saying. But Terry's done a ton of work reaching out to both the state and the county to get samples and templates so we can build our template. I anticipate that as long as we can get an approved template in place, we can actually get that rolled out to Synergy really fast. But as of right now, it is still not working.
Okay.
So that is an area that.
So not only the template of the letter, or is it also going to be able to give the notification when it's like the first notification of the chronic absenteeism, and then this is your second notification, and then your third? And because I know that that's always something that the admin assistants are always just struggling to try to keep track of. Okay, this kid's out again, but how many letters have I sent, and pulling all of that information out.
Yes.
So Synergy's supposed to be able to do all of that automatically, right?
Synergy would be the one that would generate the letters based on the data in Synergy in terms of attendance data. I'm actually hoping that the EduClimber platform would be the better view into the attendance to see chronic absenteeism. It's the true like MTSS platform.
Okay.
So, I mean, based on the presentations and all the demos that Terry and I were in, like, I'm excited that Terry brought this platform to us. It's been a little bit of a headache to get it up and running because it was hard to get Synergy to send all the correct data to EduClimber to get it working. But now that that part's done, I'm excited. I think that will be the first stop to look at the data. And then the Synergy stop is really just the exporting of the letters and the generating automatically to save the time on the admin assistant from doing every letter by hand, which is a tremendous amount of time.
And then will the EduClimber, is that going to be where you have local assessments too? Will that be housed, they'd be housed there? So a teacher would be able to go in there and then pull up like their attendance and their local assessments and then.
Everything. I mean, everything imaginable on that student. If that student has a 504, it'll be there. If that student has an IEP, it'll show that. If, excuse me, there'll be a section for notes. If that student is receiving intervention, it'll be in there, and you can actually track it in there. So it's a one-stop shop rather than, you know, a teacher having to log in to say Synergy for attendance and trying to think Renaissance for STAR information, and then who else they need to get involved for CASP data. It'll all be right there. And I talked to one of our counselors at Taylor, and she's used the system in another school district, and she said, oh my God, that is amazing. I can't wait till we get that. So I think everybody's excited about it. We just gotta get it going.
We've been pushing hard, and I'm excited about our progress. Data Zone is what we had prior. When we did the survey, when Terry sent out that survey, staff weren't even using it.
They weren't using it.
And then when we dove into it, we were finding out that the data had discrepancies. So a kid would show up as enrolled in 2 schools, which they weren't. Or a kid would show up as this is what their attendance is, but then when you export it with Synergy, it is not what it showed you. So that was our big impetus to get out of Data Zone and into EduClimber. And we were ambitious with our timeline for sure, but this has definitely exceeded even our expectation for how long it would take. I'm excited about how close it is now that it's definitely been.
What's the estimate now for getting it out?
The last message they sent us was asking about, they're doing their import and aligning all of our data to match. And then essentially what happens nightly is then that data syncs once they've done all the mapping. So on their end right now, they're doing all the mapping. I think their latest question was about grading, and then they do a data review with us where we check the data with them. I think they were estimating the data review could be in the next 2 weeks or so.
So you think in a month or so you'd be able to get it out to the teachers, or is that just?
I wish I could say a month or so, I just don't know.
You don't know?
This thing
Back
has
in
been.
September, I was saying, it'll be October for
Yeah,
sure.
this thing has been dragging out way longer than it should, but I mean, Terry's been relentless in reaching out to EduCommerce to keep them on board, and on track, and then my part has been trying to get the synergy side done. So I'm hopeful in a month. I will keep you posted. I promise to keep you posted.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's one question I have. The high school has something similar to that, where all information is stored in one area. If you have a 454 IEP, I guess my question is, my experience have been, like, let's say a freshman comes in, they get a 504 plan, it's in the system, your paper stays with the student as they go along, but unless the teacher is going to go click on the button or go search and look at every student's file, sometimes some teachers miss the fact that the kid has a 504, has accommodations, have all this stuff. So maybe we need to educate our teachers, or how to simplify it for teachers, that instead of having all these students that you have to go in and click at every kid's file and what they have and don't have, I think it's just a lot of work. Because as a parent, every year I had to remind the teachers, has a 504, has accommodations, and it's been a struggle. So I'm just wondering how that would affect our students, because we have them if they get identified with something in second grade, what is the process to keep on making sure that the teachers?
Synergy has some flags that pop up. So when this teacher's in their classroom view running attendance, they'll see little icons on the kid's picture that indicate things like medical conditions, custody issues show up in there, as well as a 504 and IEP. So it's actually Linda Kroll that is putting that data into Synergy to generate those flags. And she's been fully up to date on that, because we were able to run extracts from Synergy recently to get the sanitary union so they could start prepping. And we were able to get data out of Synergy that she had put in there. It will be even better when they can see the flag and then be able to dive into EduClimber and see the picture of the kid. The whole profile of the kid, to see every little data metric that we have on it. So I'm excited for that next step to kind of bridge the gap. But right now there is a little thing. Christina, do teachers sign off on 504s annually?
Yes, we do annual, 504s all in.
So they know
That's
the teacher.
But
I think the idea
Teacher, yeah,
though is then if you do it in March
right.
for your annual, and then the next school year starts, when
Right.
the teacher knows that. I do think also though, with any new platform, right, EduClimber training is a big
We
piece of
had
that.
on the schedule PD for each school for EduClimber, but obviously we've had to postpone it. So right now it's to be announced, but those plans are in the works. I mean, as the minute it's up and running, I'll get out there and start doing PD.
We can work on a list at the beginning of the year that has everybody that has a 504 listed, and give the teacher a list of students in their class with a 504 and what those accommodations are. We've done that in the past at prior schools, so we can work on something like that.
The counselors do that, the counselors are a big part of supporting the 504s. They also, so they go out and they talk to all the teachers, ask if there's any questions at the very beginning of the year. Same with the IEPs, all of the teachers get IEPs at a glance, and that's done by the case managers.
I just had one question. Jeff, you have, you're fully staffed, yay.
I know.
So, is Lyndon the only person that services the schools, or will Rashid go out to the schools on a regular basis to service the schools? Because it would be helpful, I would think, for each school to have more than maybe 2 days a week of support rather than just one day a week with Linda?
That's a great question. So Rashid, I joke about it, but Rashid is probably one of the only members of the district that travels to every school site every day in the network. But he's not physically there unless he has to be. So for example, last week we had an issue with Taylor clocks. He was in every wing of Taylor checking every clock. When we had the Green Hill outage, he was at Green Hills every day working with Comcast. However, there is a benefit that I've had in terms of him at a station, at a desk, at a computer, responding, interacting, monitoring the network in a way that we never could do. Like I'm stuck in a meeting, I'm not seeing something that's happening, he's seeing it live, correcting the problem before it ever shows up. And although his job and Lyndon's overlap a little bit, Lyndon is still the primary one who's servicing student devices, teacher devices, and then Rashid's doing more of the network, the back end, that side of things. I mean, in my past district, we used to always joke, like, if you saw that guy, like something was wrong. You really should never see him.
Jeff, can you explain that Lyndon's not just physically at a site, that's the only time teachers get help.
That's
He
what I was
works
gonna add.
remotely with the tickets for teachers.
Yeah, so Lyndon is, I mean, the ticket volume, that 40% increase, a little bit fell to me. Rashid got a little bit of it because he joined our team this year. A lot of that 40% increase, I'm not gonna lie, fell on Lyndon, and he didn't break a sweat. Lyndon is amazing at using his time effectively, no matter where he is. So he'll generally spends a few hours here at the district office every morning, and he's remoting in and working with staff from every site while he's here at the district office first. Then he'll go out to a school site to address individual concerns at that site. But even when he's there, if he has a slow moment, he's working on a remote thing here with this other site. So Lyndon's actually traveling between sites all the time, virtually as well. And that's been a huge benefit. That's a platform that they had rolled out, I think, just prior to COVID, and we kept it. It's not a ton of money. I want to say it's like $1,000 a year. But it allows myself, Rashid, and Lyndon to be able to do this remote with anyone in the district. And that's been a big deal. It's been really, really helpful. And I have never had a site say, we're not getting the help we need, which is good. And I mean, we've been able to keep on top of those tickets, even with the increase. So Rashid is always willing and always happy to travel to sites as needed, but he hasn't, I would say, need to yet. Except during those extreme situations where the need dictated him to be physically there.
And I understand we have a stipend person on staff at each of the sites that is
Yes.
their tech. Now, is there one at each site?
No, not every site asked or put forward a person. So we have a hole at Green Hills. I'm looking at Claudia. Roger backed out, right, yeah. So the staff member wasn't able to continue this year. He was great influence and awesome. I hope he will be able to come back. But we don't have every site covered. What I have had good success with, and actually Rashid brought it into Taylor, which I didn't even think of. We had a teacher having a problem with syncing their Google Classroom percentage grades, weren't syncing correctly. I was trying to help on a ticket, Rashid was trying to help on a ticket, and Rashid came and was like, hey, I just want to let you know, I went to Joanna as our staff member here at Taylor, and said, I went to her and I asked her whether she had a minute to help, because she does it all the time, she's a teacher, and I'm like, that's amazing, that's exactly what we're excited to do. So she went down and helped that teacher, and it was totally solved. So I think that person is underutilized at every site, and that's my fault. I haven't been able to meet with them and really provide help and instruction on what we could use them for. But I will say that every time we have needed their assistance, that person at every site has jumped in and helped. And they have a unique view and lens, especially into the teaching world, because a lot of them that accepted that stipend are teachers. So they're able to support the curriculum platforms that in a way that I can't. I'm not a teacher. I've never taught in my classroom like that.
No, I think it's a great thing.
it's cool.
I'm just, obviously, you're not getting a lot of calls because, everything's being taken care of on the sites where they have that person on site. I was just wondering if every site has a person that they can go to so that they don't have to come to the district office, or wait for Lyndon to be there on whatever day that he's
Right.
at their site.
Right, and he'll travel, if there's truly emergency, Lyndon does usually travel.
Mhm.
He's usually the first one there, if it's in his purview, in his job description, that like working on that physical stuff, he will make a special trip. But that's, I'm taking the note, of the stipend stuff. Because I do feel like we can be better about that, and, we'll think of better ways to try to recruit for all sides.
Just a very quick clarification, the
Yeah.
40% increase in tickets, is that because there's been a 40% increase in leads, or actually people are putting in a ticket now?
So it's hard to say, I'm trying to find out.
And I think the goal would be actually to have lower tickets eventually over time, right?
Yes, I don't know where I did it, I threw that slide in somewhere. I truly believe it's because more people got access to the platform. And so, last week, Monday, is it Monday? It was Monday. Last week, Monday, we had every server, we had the server that manages all the copiers stop working correctly. It affected every site. I didn't actually hear about it until Julie DeMille sent me an email and said, hey, just want to let you know, like, this is a quick thing, like, I wanted you to know that this thing says it's not connected. And I was like, that's strange, like, which copier is it? Is it the black and white one? Is it the color one? She was actually at Lomita, because she starts there in the mornings. And she heard the staff talking about it, and so she reached out an email, and she said, oh, it's both copiers. And I was like, both copiers? Why would it be both copiers? So I walked over to the district office, and it was ours too. And that was the first indication that district-wide everything was down, but no one had told us yet. And I truly believe that that was happening a lot more than we know, because people couldn't submit their own ticket.
So did you get like 50 tickets on the same?
So we didn't then. We sent out an email, we told everyone working on it, we were able to resolve the issue. And then,
Lyndon's a champ.
and then, right?
Yeah, 50 done and 5 announcements.
Done. A similar issue cropped up again on Friday. There was another blip with the copiers. And so we had communicated out, we said the thank you, please thank you for recording this, what people did on Monday, we kept everyone in the loop on what happened. All the resolution was done Monday, midday, we got it fixed. And then Friday, when we had the other blip, every site submitted tickets. So I feel like that kind of thing is a positive trend for me. You're right, we shouldn't be getting more tickets, but I think that it's because people are able to communicate with us directly, and it's also not getting stuck in an email. That's the other thing with me in the past. Like, somebody would send an email to me, I was counting all day for a meeting. So if you emailed me today and I didn't see it right away, you're not getting help. It's getting stuck in an inbox, or if I happen to be sick one day. Having the ticketing system means that even if I'm not seeing it, somebody else on our team is seeing it, and somebody's responding to you, so you're getting the help you need. We've also been able to proactively put in notices. So we got all those tickets on Friday when they had the blip, but we also put a banner at the top of the system that said, copiers are down, we're working on it, this is the status. So people didn't have to turn another ticket. They knew they weren't alone, because sometimes it feels like, I don't know, is everybody having a problem? Maybe it's just me. Maybe my number didn't work. So that, I feel like it's greatly improved our communication and outreach to staff, and I feel like that's led to the increase.
And are these tickets also available to families or students?
Good question. No. At this point, we have no students or parents or community members or anyone able to submit a ticket. It's only staff. So in the case of a new enrollment or a registration, it's the admin assistant that's submitting a ticket saying there's a new student coming, we need to generate an account for the student that was just registered. If it's in a classroom and a kid's having a trouble with the device, the teacher's turning in a ticket for that device. If the student is locked out of their account because they need a reset password, the teacher's turning it in for the student. We haven't, my previous district, high school district, every kid had submitted their own ticket.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think this could be an area of opportunity, because I do still get text strings from parents who will tell me about things that are down, technology wise.
Oh.
I sometimes forward to you, but I'm kind of it's a text string
Please forward them to me.
You know what I mean? And I'm my kids aren't there anymore, but I think they're wondering what's going on. So it might be, usually it's something weird, a blip in Google Classroom, or something not available, or the system looks funny, or the data is funny, and people will be reaching out to other families asking, are you seeing this, or is this going wrong, or what is this blip? So I don't know. I'm wondering how many other text strings are going on that I'm not included on,
right.
that are also having issues and no one knows where to go.
Okay, that's something that's an area we can look at, as a potential next step. Being able to submit as still don't know if my middle schoolers would really use it as a student submitting, but maybe a
Or it
parent.
could be even
would
like a parent who's
submit.
like, I'm locked out and I can't remember my password, and there might be something I think you
Right.
can do.
They usually email, they've been, most of the time they'll email, or they'll talk to the school site, and the school site will send it our way. We've gotten a few of those over if the school site can't resolve. Sometimes the school site resolves those before they even reach out to us. If it's like a simple password reset for parent review, all the admin assistants have permission to do that, in the system. So, but yeah, no, that's not a bad idea. And that might be something we can pilot to see, how it works, if it's even utilized. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving right along to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Or discussion? Second?
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right, we're moving on to district business. We're on to 11.1, superintendent contract amendment, change to item 6, life insurance. The superintendent is employed as a full-time employee of the district and will receive a salary at the annual rate of $43,000. The annual salary shall be payable in installments of 1/12 of the annual salary on the last day of each month for services rendered during that month. The daily rate for the purpose of prorating the annual salary provided for in the contract shall be $1,095. This salary shall be increased according to the following schedule. On 1/1/2024, the $243,000 per diem rate of $1,095. 7/1/2024, $250,000 per diem rate of $1,126. And 7/1/2025, $262,000 and per diem rate of $1,180. Per diem rate of $1,243. The superintendent may select medical, dental, and vision plan available to other certificated management employees within the district. The superintendent shall be responsible for any employee contribution of the plan selected. During each year of the term of superintendent's employment, the district shall reimburse the superintendent's expenses for the $500,000 term life insurance policy of the superintendent's choice, payable to superintendent's beneficiaries at a cost not to exceed $1,440 per year. The superintendent is responsible for the superintendent's share of contributions to CalSTRS. Okay. And this is an action item. Could I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion? Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, 11.2, resolution number 232407, annual developer fee report and 5-year findings.
Yes, it is, thank you. So here we are with 11.2 resolution number 232407. This is a combined report for their annual developer fee and 5-year findings. So we're finding that most districts are doing this 5-year report every year. It's the recommendation that our lawyers are giving us in state in compliance with reporting for developer fees. So a school district is required to do this under the law. The Millbrae Elementary School District has combined its reporting obligations into resolution number 232407. In adopting this resolution, the governing board of the Millbrae School District confirms, determines, and defines that 1, it reviewed the information in the resolution at its regularly scheduled meeting, January 16, 2024, and which information was made available to the public not less than 15 days before this date. It was posted to our website on December 22nd, 2023. Notice of this meeting, including address where the information in this resolution may review, was mailed at least 15 days prior to any interested parties who filed a written request. The information in this resolution is being made available to the public within 180 days of the close of the 22-23 fiscal year ending June 30, 2023. So if you look at the report, we can go over some of that before you make the final decision and see if there's any questions on it. So if you look at page 139 in your packet, annual developer fee report, you can see that in section B, the amount collected for new residential development was $13,615.28. In commercial industrial, $210,603.71. And residential addition, $18,892.09. You can see the amount per square foot for each of those categories on the right-hand side. Beginning and ending fund balance for 22-23 fiscal year, the beginning balance was $910,595.50, and the ending fund balance was $1,151,098.73. So it just talks about the revenue in section B, amount of fees collected, $243,000, interest earned, $22,046.20, total revenue, $265,000. Expenditures, so there's the expenditures we had in the 22-23 fiscal year that were allowable under the developer fee regulations. So advertising for the study, $360 in paper. We did some topographical surveys for DSA work and ADA compliance at Spring Valley for $7,600. Taylor for the parking lot topographical survey and underground utility study was $15,300. So a total of $23,260 was expended out of the developer fees for 22-23. Then you can continue on. There was one project that was we had to issue a refund for. That happens. They have to pay the fees before all of the plans are approved, and so there was a change of plans. So the addition this residential home ended up doing was less than 500 square feet, so they did not have to pay developer fees for that project after the change was made. So then if you go to section 2 and you look at proposal to expend fees in the future. So justification study, so if we were to do the justification study, which we did, right, is a cost of $7,500 to do the justification study. The cost that we can charge potentially to this developer fees fund is $216,000. That's a new portable elevator park that we can charge towards this account. And then the new play structures throughout the school district are estimated to be in ballpark $750,000, which we could take out of this for regulations of the developer fee. Got it. So you can continue on. It just talks about, do we have any matching sources at the time? At the moment, we don't have any matching funds at the time of this report. If the governor does propose a bond for facilities statewide, then there could be potential for matching fees. If that gets passed statewide, we would have an application process, and school districts could apply for matching funds if that bond passes in future, if it goes on a future election, like the governor mentioned in his governor's report. And so that's the end of the study and report of fees and potential expenditures. So I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Any questions? Okay. All right, this is an action item. So can I take a motion? Motion to approve. In a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. And our next is board governance, and we have their review of the CFPA policy updates. This is for discussion only. That's the instruction series, the 6,000, and the attached board policy changes and additions are presented for discussion. They will return for approval at the board's February 6, 2024 meeting. So I'm sure you all had so much fun. I know I did. Anyway, so this will come up again on February 6th. Any questions, discussion? Okey-doke. Okay, so we're on to future agenda items. Anything for the good of the cause? We have a couple of things. Thank you for our tech presentation. We can cross that off our list. And our task force, thank you for that. We can cross that off our list. We're looking at ELL department presentation, and we're looking at a special ed presentation in the future. Anything else that we wanted to add to that list? Lisa, did you have any?
Ralph just kind of mentioned bond polling, and of course, bond polling results, and of course, we will be bringing LCAP to you soon too.
And LCAP?
Mid-year.
The future agenda item would be to make a decision on the bond, so if the decision is to move forward, then there would have to be a resolution to.
So would that be on February 6th?
It would not necessarily be February 6th, it would just be at a future meeting.
Okay. And do we have an update on our city?
We're very
Ralph.
close.
We did have an in-person meeting.
Are you getting
on
Friday? Are you moving?
We had an in-person meeting last Friday, and we have another follow-up next Monday, I believe, January 22nd. So we are making progress. There's just a few little things that we want to make sure that it's also the best interest of our district.
Great. Should we have our joint meeting before or after the contract?
I have a feeling that a joint meeting may take a little while to schedule, but depending on who you want involved from the city in the joint meeting, so.
And we're hoping it's going to be a joint celebration, not just a joint meeting.
And then I think we have we're going to be scheduling another meeting for a board retreat, right? So that's coming up. And I think, did we mention something about having our HR person do a presentation as well? Make sure everybody has a chance to come up in front for our new superintendent, so we can add that.
And a follow-up on today's presentation.
Follow up on
Today's numbers.
data.
Tasks.
Data,
Yeah.
yeah.
Priorities.
I think that's enough.
We also have, of course, some school spotlights that are already scheduled and calendared.
Oh, and so who is on the
Who's
6th?
You know, I don't know that off here.
Do we have one on the 6th?
Yes, three notes.
And,
you, Linda.
sorry, we also talked about doing a joint meeting with the PTAs and MES.
That's right.
And I know that that's gotten rescheduled many times, but it should be much more of a different kind of agenda. I'm not sure. It's changed over the past few years. I think it works best when
It's separate, we've talked about
it's
that.
separate and it's.
Tomorrow night would be a good time to talk.
I don't know about
You're all gonna be in the same room together, right?
Yeah, we're not good.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we're going to adjourn at 9:05. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Well,